Welcome back. You're now tuned into the big story right here on The Breakfast Show. After nearly 2 years on the Financial Action Task Force, FATF Grey List, Nigeria has finally been removed. A milestone that reflects notable progress in tackling money laundering, terrorism financing, and strengthening financial oversight. The announcement has been greeted with optimism in policy circles and the business community alike, with many seeing it as a vote of confidence in Nigeria's economic and regulatory reform. So what does this development signal for the economy and the financial sector, and also Nigeria's global standing? Joining me to discuss this is Dr. Samson Simon. He's the CEO of Arkk Economics and Data Limited. Good morning, Dr. Simon, and welcome to the big story.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's go straight into it. What exactly is the FATF Grey List, and why was Nigeria placed on it in the first place?
Well, the FATF is an international body originally created by the G7 group of nations in 1989. It is headquartered in Paris, France, and its main mandate is around fighting threats to the global financial system, particularly those threats around money laundering, terrorism financing, and proliferation financing. But it's not limited to those three. These are the core threats that FATF or FATF looks at. But it looks at other things as well. And to be grey listed, it means that you are under increased monitoring, right? You have, there are fundamental threats, there are fundamental gaps to your anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism framework. There are some fundamental problems that the FATF will not will refuse to overlook. And Nigeria sadly was considered to have that after the last mutual evaluation report. It came out in 2021. And it was found that we had like 84 threats, in fact, 84 fundamental problems. But we were able to resolve 69 of them after some time. And then it was realized that we had 19 that were still pending. So they came up with a 19-point action plan for Nigeria to work on for it to exit the grey list. And we have worked on it, and we're out of it now. That was what was announced last week in Paris. So it is, like you rightly mentioned, is a welcome development. It means the problems we had when we were grey listed will slowly be eased out, and Nigeria will be welcome to Committee of Nations. However, it's not yet Uhuru, because this mutual evaluation reports are routine and they're due in 2 years' time. So if we don't sustain the reforms that we have implemented so that we could exit the grey list, then we might sadly be taken back to that list.
Now, speak to us about the factors that made the delisting possible. Do you think they were driven by stronger policies, compliance measures, or international cooperation?
All of the above, because those three authorities and to the Nigerian people for making that possible. Because over the past 2 years, Nigeria as a country has embarked on vigorous reforms. Some of them include laws, particularly our regulatory framework. So we have this money laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. It was fully enacted and enforced. Secondly, we have Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. It was fully enacted and enforced. And then we also have the full operationalization, right, of beneficial ownership register. We are talking about persons of significant control, so that if a business is being set up, you know who are the people exactly behind that business, and not some fronts, and not using shell to avoid accountability. So many other things. We have worked on these reforms, and the FATF, the organization, is fully convinced that we're serious, and It means our AML, that's anti-money laundering, and CFT, countering the financing of terrorism framework, is effectively sufficient to tackle threats. And that's why they removed us from the list. So these reforms were embarked upon, and then the results are there for everybody to see. And we have convinced the body responsible, and they're okay with it.
All right, some have described this move as a major boost for investor confidence and also the banking sector. From your standpoint, how significant is it for Nigeria's financial credibility on the global stage?
Of course, the removal means a lot for our financial system. When we were grey listed, an average international institution, whether financial or non-financial, would not like to touch anything Nigerian financial system with a long pole. But now that we have been given a clean bill of health, they'll be more comfortable dealing with Nigerian financial system. And in the past, for wire transfers, for example, there were additional, what we call enhanced due diligence, additional documentation that would be required for you to transfer money, whether into or out of Nigeria, right? But with this exiting, it means there'll be less of documentation, less of enhanced due diligence. Another thing is also the costs. When we were grey listed, it will cost more for transactions that had to do with Nigeria. And people were skeptical dealing with us, whether investors or trading generally across the group, across the globe, capital flows, and so many things. Everybody was skeptical because we were considered to be risky environment. But with this now, the risks will come down, the risk premium will reduce, and more people will feel comfortable dealing with Nigerian businesses, because what you need to do is just the standard measures that you need to take that any other country is expected to. But before now, you needed to do some more, and it would have cost you more. The time also would have taken longer. And all these things have implications for the Nigerian economy. And any transactions from Nigeria would have been flagged because we were grey listed. But now that we're out, such things will not be done. So we are welcome back to Committee of Nations, and we hope that we maintain the tempo so that we don't get into trouble again.
Yeah, I hear you. So could this delisting open more doors for foreign direct investments and improve our ease of doing business?
Of course, of course. We have this problem with attracting foreign direct investment. We have not only failed to attract foreign direct investment, but we have also been humiliating foreign direct investment. And one of the reasons is this grey listing. It contributed, I'm not saying it's the sole reason, there are other economic challenges that contributed to that. But with this new exit now, with our new condition, I think the Nigerian economy will be considered more friendly to foreign direct investment. And it's not just going to happen overnight that a lot of foreign direct investment will come in, but little by little they will come. Just like when we were hemorrhaging foreign direct investment, all these companies that left Nigeria did not leave Nigeria at once. It's not like they had a WhatsApp group where they decided and they left on the same day. No, they left little by little. In the same manner, if foreign direct investment will come in, people will come in to set up shop here, or they buy controlling stake in businesses. They will come little by little. So this is just a step in the right direction. So we need to earn our keep and prove to the world that we're really trustworthy, that we can maintain this tempo, particularly the enforcement of these reforms. And then other capital flows too, talking about, for example, diaspora remittances. We expect in the past, when we were grey listed, it was a bit more difficult to even send in money into Nigeria because we were considered high risk environment, right? Because we were under increased monitoring by FATF. So with this now, to be easier for Nigerians living abroad, people that have JAPA to easily send money, to be easier than what it was before. And mind you, the International Monetary Fund also claims that for any entity that is being grey listed, the chances of that entity losing, it can lose as much as 7.6% of its GDP in capital flows. So that's significant. That's significant. So now that we're out of it, we expect that it will help us to a very large extent to feel free amongst other countries, to have partnerships with other countries, trading partnership, capital flows, remittances coming in, foreign direct investment, and transactions generally.
Do you think this will also have any impact on the naira, particularly in terms of foreign exchange stability or inflows?
It should have impact on the naira. The value of the naira, particularly in terms of the dollar, which is the most popular reserve currency of the world, is largely as a result of external factors. And if we can attract foreign direct investment, if we have large capital inflows into Nigeria to strengthen the naira, we have been attracting foreign portfolio investment. But we need to, what this will help is with the foreign direct investment and remittances and other capital flows. And also our financial system too will be considered more robust. And if we have liquidity in the foreign exchange market, that will show up the value of the naira. So we expect the naira to appreciate in value. Even by this announcement, the value of the naira inched up a little bit. But what we're looking for is not just a temporary improvement or appreciation of the naira, but a significant improvement in the value of the naira. And this delisting will help with that because we have enough liquidity, we have enough. One of the reasons why the naira got devalued or depreciated was because we couldn't meet up with our foreign exchange obligations. You remember we're owing around 7 billion that we couldn't clear, and we attracted liquidity in and we're able to largely clear virtually everything apart from the controversial ones. So in the same manner now that we are free of the grey list, more effects will be attracted and we have enough financial war chests to meet up with any obligation. And then nobody will be skeptical. And then ultimately the value of the naira is expected to appreciate.
So how do you think, because you mentioned that you hope that we're still good so we don't go back to being on the grey list. So how do you think Nigeria can sustain this momentum to avoid slipping back onto the grey list?
So what took us there and what we did to get out of it, what took us there are things that we should avoid. What made us to leave that list are things that we should sustain. And one of them is interagency coordination, because we enhance our interagency coordination, talk about the National Financial Intelligence Unit, talk about the EFCC, talk about the Office of the Attorney General, the Office of the Auditor General, and Ministry of Internal Affairs, and so on. All of them came together and they worked and they made this possible, this exit possible, because they shared intelligence and they coordinated their activities. So we need to maintain that. We should not just limit it to exiting the grey list. We should maintain that if we don't want to go back to that list. Then oversight of businesses and professions, designated businesses and professions. And you have gatekeepers too, whether legal practice, accounting, real estate. These are some of the people that would help us with due diligence. With monitoring of illicit financial activities. So all these things, we need to maintain them, that oversight by the bodies. And for the National Financial Intelligence Unit, you should have full autonomy and should have sufficient funding to be able to do its work well, because it's basically the coordinating unit for all these agencies that have to do with financial inflow. So we need to maintain that. And then the full operationalization of the beneficial ownership register. We need to make it central, we need to make it open, and we need to make sure that the data there is reliable. And if somebody submits an unreliable data and it's found out, the person needs to be punished. We need to prevent any threats to our financial system. And if we cannot prevent, we should quickly detect and then investigate and prosecute people responsible for that. One reason we were flagged and made us to go into the grey list was because we had cases of money laundering and terrorism financing, but the prosecution was almost negligible. So FATF was not happy with that. So we need to ensure that we prosecute. It's not just flagging transactions, having incidents of people funding terrorism. We have a lot of terrorist groups in Nigeria. They have funding somewhere, and terrorists collect ransom for kidnapping people. Nothing has been done. People have not been arrested. We need to work on all these things if we want to be taken seriously, so that we maintain the tempo. And it's not just about exiting the grey list. It's also having full membership of FATF. If we can have full membership, we can be at the forefront of fighting any illegal or illicit financial flows.
What lessons can other African countries learn from Nigeria's experience?
Well, we are a success story, if one can wish to call it that way, because we we got out of a very bad list. Sadly, fortunately, we didn't degenerate to the extent of going to the blacklist. We were once on the blacklist, and that was what prompted under Obasanjo in 2001. That's what prompted us to form EFCC and so on and so forth. So thankfully, we're out, and we have lessons that we have learned, and some of the lessons we have learned include oversight of our financial system, closer oversight, stricter oversight of our financial system, and also some designated businesses and professions, and then the coordination of all the bodies that have some responsibility around money laundering, terrorism financing, and proliferation financing. Talking about the NFIU, talking about the EFCC, the ICPC, the Auditor General's Office, the Auditor General and Attorney General's offices, and the Ministry of Interior, and so on and so forth. And then another thing that other countries can learn from us is that we actually got to work. The political will was there to deliver, and kudos to our leaders, they have actually delivered. So the political will should be there. If you proceed tepidly, then you are unlikely going to have the desired results. And for the evaluation, this evaluation are routine. So you need to make sure that you are technically compliant, thinking about your legal, your institutional, your operational frameworks are in order, and talking about effective compliance too, that you have desired results at the end of the day. Because it's not just about getting things done on paper. If we have the legal framework and they're not fully implemented and they're not fully operational and they're not being enforced properly, then you continue to remain on a list that you'll not be happy, you'll not be glad to be there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Samson Simon, CEO of Arkk Economics and Data Limited. It was really good to have you on the big story.
Thank you for having me.
All right, there you have it. We'll go on a quick break now. When we come back, the breakfast show continues with the social listening segment with myself and Valentine Noyeka. Just stay with us.